What is up, all you film exiles? All you who have been banished to the cinematic wastelands, gather around the campfire for another episode of Exiles Network News, a weekly podcast where a roundtable of your favorite film exiles talk about the latest and greatest in entertainment news. Today, I'm joined by the usual suspects, the dastardly Paul.
Good evening, gentlemen. Dastardly is going to be tough to live up to, but looking forward to tonight's episode. Lucky number 13.
Yes, sir. And the infamous Christian.
Infamous. Okay, I like it. What's going on, gentlemen?
Everything's good. So today, as Paul said, lucky number 13. Let's roll the dice, and here are our items for the day. Avatar wraps a part of photography. Release the Snyder Cut saga continues with updates from Henry Cavill and then Zack Snyder. We're going to talk about a couple interesting things coming to Netflix in the month of December. We're going to talk about a couple things coming to Amazon Prime in December. And then in our coming soon section, we're going to talk about hot off the presses Bird of Prey posters. We're going to talk about the Mulan trailer. We're going to talk about the Togo trailer. We're going to talk about the Black Widow trailer. The Boys just dropped a teaser trailer for season 2. HBO has a series coming out, and they dropped a trailer for The Outsider. And we're going to wrap it up with No Time to Die posters and the first trailer. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. James Cameron's long incubating Avatar sequels have passed another significant stage of development on the way to an actual release. And the Avatar Twitter page posted this message and picture. It said, "That's a wrap, Navi Nation." Heart emoji. It's our last day of live action filming in 2019, and we're celebrating with a sneak peek eyes emoji. Check out this photo of the aft well deck section of the Sea Dragon, a massive mothership that carries an array of other seagoing craft in the sequels. Production on these sequels started in 2017 with a combined budget of over $1 billion, gazillion, cajillion, trillion dollars. It just doesn't even sound real. The 4 sequels that are in the making were shot simultaneously. Sounds like a Herculean task. They are Avatar: The Way of the Water, Avatar: The Seedbearer, Avatar: The Tolkien Rider, and Avatar: The Quest of Awa. Paul, could you tell us the release dates for these upcoming sequels?
Yeah, I mean they've been delayed so many times. I'm hoping I've got the most recent ones here, but I'm pretty sure I do. So number 2 was originally, I think it was supposed to be out already, probably like last year, but it got pushed to 20. Eventually got pushed to December 2020, and now most recently, number 2 is scheduled for December 17th, 2021. Number 3 will open 2 years after, December 22nd, 2023. And then 4, 2 years after that, December 19th, 2025. And finally, the 5th Avatar, 2 years after that, on December 17th, 2027. So we're looking at, what is that, 8 years from now before we finally get to see all 4 of these things. So we still have a long wait, but the sequel, the first one, is still 2 years away.
Okay. So, guys, what do you think of this development and this tweet about the last day of live action filming in 2019? Paul, let's start with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, at first I thought it was, I had to reread it because I thought, oh, good, they're done filming. And then I realized it's just the last day of filming for 2019. So they're celebrating with a sneak peek, and it's neat to see the section of that Sea Dragon ship, which is interesting, and I like the idea that they're going to be exploring the underwater worlds. I still, taking a step back, I still love the original Avatar. I still watch it on occasion. I think it's still a great use of 3D. I like 3D. I might be in the minority, but And I still love Avatar. It still holds up for me. I think it's probably one of my top 10 movies of all time. And I know
Wow.
it's cool to hate on that movie. People love to call it Pocahontas or Dances with Wolves, but I still think it's great. So I'm pretty excited for the sequel. I love I love that Pandora land that they built at Animal Kingdom in Disney World, and that ride, Flight of Passage, is one of the best that I've been on. It's just a phenomenal ride, and they actually do get into some of the sea creatures. You don't go underwater on that ride. You do sort of do a low altitude flyby over the ocean with
Wow.
these whale-like creatures jumping out at you, and I think it's great. I'm really excited about these sequels, and I can't wait for the first one to get here.
Sounds interesting. Christian, what do you think?
I agree with a lot of what Paul said. It's not one of my top 10 movies of all time, but the original Avatar is a highly enjoyable movie. I have it on Blu-ray, and that movie really pops with all the coloring and everything like that. On Blu-ray especially, it just looks so good on a big screen TV and everything. This is a truly ambitious cycle that James Cameron and his team have put together here for their sequels and everything. And I know he originally talked, even with the first Avatar, he was like, well, I couldn't make it back in the 1990s when I wanted to because the technology simply wasn't there. And the technology, I'm pretty sure, will be there as we start moving to 2027. Jesus, good God. So I think he's going to be able to make whatever he wants. It's, Disney had to do their thing with after the massive merger and taking over the 20th and 21st Century Fox studios. So I know that the release dates are getting punted around a little bit, but this was a big part of that. They wanted Avatar, and they want the merchandising for it and everything like that. So we know that they're going to be pumping these things up. Like Paul said, this looks really good. It's very ambitious. I'm really into seeing the expansion of this universe. Pandora was such a beautiful, lush world that they created, and I understood the knocks on the whole like Pocahontas thing and stuff, just like Paul said, but I never really agreed with any of that. I thought it was a good narrative. What they were saying about the sequel is that it is going to continue what they did in Avatar 1. However, it's going to be very self-contained. I would like to see that as they continue to do their world building. They don't necessarily have to constantly have each one rely on the other. So yeah, I think I'm excited for this one too. I agree with Paul.
Personally, I'm mixed on Avatar. I think it's a heartfelt and emotional hero's journey. It is very formulaic. It is very reminiscent of a lot of films, Ferngully, Pocahontas, Dancing with Wolves. You can just reel them off your tongue. But it is very enjoyable. I've seen it a couple of times over the years. It was the highest grossing movie when it was in theaters during its theatrical run and a couple of releases. And a lot of that was really because of the 3D technology. It actually wasn't because people just went and bought tickets like regular. And that was a big deal in that time. It was such a huge technological leap. So in order for this film that's coming up to live up to the legacy of that film as a box office records breaker, that's its biggest legacy, it's gonna have to do something with the technology and make a huge leap forward. And I think James Cameron is really trying that. We're shooting like all these water scenes, underwater VFX technology, and nobody has really perfected that. Aquaman was able to make a bit of a leap, but from what I'm hearing, James Cameron is even going diving deeper, so to speak. So I think that this tweet that was made is so inconsequential in terms of this is our last day of live action filming in 2019. Really? Like, people post for the wrap of the whole principal photography. Y'all are posting for the last day of filming in 2019. Okay, I do get it, being that these movies are dated so far out. It's almost like your brain just wants to completely forget and let go of the fact that they're coming, because it's been so long since the first one, and now it's going to be so long till this saga is complete. And so what they're just trying to do is just remind you that, we're still here. They're still coming. We're still making them. Please, let's stay on your mind. Remember us. I think that's what this tweet is all about.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
Good news for them. We do remember them. We do want to go back to Pandora And we are excited to varying degrees, but we're all excited to see what James Cameron does. I wish him the best of luck. I think that he has a very big task on his plate because, as we've been saying and complaining a little bit, nothing seems to be doing very well. Nothing is a guaranteed, moneymaker apart from Marvel movies, apart from superhero stuff and specifically Marvel stuff. So I wish him the best of luck, and we'll see how it goes. So going on to our next topic, we're going to go into some more Release the Snyder Cut talk. Yes, people, the saga continues. It's almost a weekly thing at this point, and some of us are excited to talk about it. Some of us are really tired of talking about it. Some of us are halfway in between, but we're going to talk about it because it is important news, and there were some really interesting updates this week. So let's set the stage, background on it. On November 17th, which was the second year anniversary of the tragedy of Joss Whedon's Justice League being released in theaters, the cast and crew of Zack Snyder's Justice League tweeted their support for the Snyder Cut with the hashtag #ReleaseTheSnyderCut. I mean, we talked about it on this podcast. The number of people and the range of people who were supporting this, hashtag and this movement and campaign, it was incredible to see. We had even people like Damon Lindelof tweeting it. Damon Lindelof, who didn't even work on the film. We had actors, we had crew people, stunt people, cinematographers, writers, people from other shows, Marvel, Marvel actors, tweeting Release the Snyder Cut. Deadpool tweeting Release the Snyder Cut. But one person was conspicuously absent from tweeting. Someone who has social media, who's quick to tweet, whenever there's an issue that concerns him. And it was Henry Cavill. And ever since then, fans have been, very curious, disturbed, some angry. People running to defend him. There's been a bit of commotion as to, what's going on with Henry Cavill and his lack of support of the Snyder Cut. So, in an interview for Netflix The Witcher series, a good reporter nailed him down, asked him directly with no wiggle room, what do you think about the Snyder Cut? Do you want to see it? That sort of thing. And this is what Henry Cavill's reply was. He said, I have not seen any Snyder Cuts. He said, I don't know if there's anything that exists that is a Snyder Cut. I'm sure there's footage out there that's probably been pieced together over the years. And he said, I'm always interested to see how that stuff turns out, but that's very much a chapter in my past. I would rather talk about what's going to happen in the future of Superman. So in short, he cast doubt over the existence of the Snyder Cut as an entity, as a whole, and he continued to withhold his support for it. Lots of DCU fans were upset. Lots of DCU haters reveled in it. There was actually an IO9 article that said something about the fact that Henry Cavill doesn't want to see it, so DC fans just move on, that sort of thing. Now, the next day, Zack Snyder went on to post a photo of what you would call definitive proof of reels of the film, and he captioned it, "Is it real? Does it exist? Of course it does." And it's Goldberg reels of the Snyder Cut, and it says ZS, obviously initials for Zack Snyder, JL Director's Cut, running time 214 minutes. Now that's the main plot. There are multiple side stories with reporters asking questions and Zack Snyder, tweeting back at him, and there's stuff from Chris Terrio. But Paul, get up on your soapbox and, preach to us. Tell us, what do you think of these events this week on the Snyder Cut saga?
Yeah, well, it's been an eventful week, that's for sure. I think Cavill's comments were disappointing to all of us that want to see the Snyder Cut. I mean, I think it's not shocking. I mean, I feel like we were just talking about this 2 weeks ago with the Men's Health article where he passed up an opportunity to support Zack and the demand for the Snyder Cut. And I think we had a pretty good pulse on what his motivations were and what his feelings were back then. But this just confirms it definitively. I mean, his comments are, it just confirms exactly what you think, right? He's not interested in the Snyder Cut. He's playing dumb about not knowing if one exists. It's almost condescending the way he says, "I've not seen any Snyder Cut. I don't know if there's anything that exists that is a Snyder Cut." And then to say, "I'm sure there's footage out there that's probably been pieced together over the years," which is ludicrous because the Snyder Cut was put together before Zack ever left the production, right? So and Henry would know that, right? So he's playing dumb. It's a little insulting. And then he goes on to talk about how his focus is on the future and that's in his past. He's really wanting to tell his kind of Superman story going forward. I forget what his exact words, but something to the effect of stories that really do justice to the God, what was it? Something like the honesty of the character. One of his word salad comments, right? And he was very, very specific about wanting to pick up the story exactly where Man of Steel left off, and so specific that I don't think it was metaphorically. I think it was literally. He wants to pick it up right where Man of Steel left off, to the point that it almost makes me wonder if they are trying to get BVS and Justice League retconned altogether. So he's made it very clear now that through omission as much as anything and refusal to mention it, that he does not like BVS. He's not happy about how his character was portrayed in that movie. He's openly admitted that he doesn't like Justice League, and he's clearly said he has no real interest in seeing an alternate version of Justice League. So, there's a lot of excuse making going on from the fandom. A lot of people still want to believe he's this poor guy that's caught with his career on the line and can't say anything that's going to upset Warner Brothers or hurt his negotiations. I don't think so. I don't think his agent's controlling him. I think he's very politically motivated himself. I don't think he likes Snyder's take for Superman. I think this is just him. He seems to align with the haters in most of his beliefs. I don't think it's a negotiating tactic. I think it's how he feels. So it's just disappointing. He's entitled to feel how he feels, I guess. It would have been really nice if he would, even at a decent human decency level, stand up for the guy that cast him, gave him his opportunity, and say, you know what, this guy deserves to have his vision seen. I mean, Henry would know as well as anyone how much of his life Zack has poured into these movies. And to not be able to just say, yes, this is my friend who's poured his heart into these movies and deserves to have his work seen. It's disappointing. So without rambling on any longer, I don't think it's a matter of cowardice. I don't think it's a matter of control. I just think that's the way he feels, and it's disappointing that he can't put his own feelings about the characterization of Superman aside long enough to support his friend. And we didn't even get into the quote about the mustache. He misses his mustache nonsense when the other reporter pinned him down about why he didn't participate. He said, well, I miss my mustache and it's a wound I don't want to reopen. Like, with everything that went on, all the people whose work was thrown away, whose reputations were damaged, whose careers were if not derailed, certainly impeded temporarily. There's a lot of serious implications that came out of the butchery of that film, and he's cracking jokes about his mustache. I mean, wow, it's disappointing, and I'll leave it there for now.
All right. Before we go to Chris, what do you think about Zack Snyder's post of the Goldberg reels of Justice League Director's Cut? Paul?
Oh, sorry, Lupe. I thought you were asking Christian.
No,
what do I think?
I'm asking you. you.
Oh, sorry. Before we go to Chris, yeah, sorry. No, I mean, that's big news. I guess it's. I think we all believed that it was done, and we all believed that it was 214 minutes. To see the photos of the film in its in the can, basically, as they say, labeled with the 214-minute runtime, confirmed definitively by Zack Snyder, that's a big deal. I mean, we suspected it. We couldn't really prove it. I mean, we were telling people, look, he circled the poster and he told people that that was the runtime. And a lot of people didn't take that as credible, right? So now you have that backed up. So what we've been saying since March, 214-minute runtime is confirmed. I mean, some people have been saying this since May of 2017, before the movie even came out, that it was 3.5 hours long. But we've got that proof. That's a big deal. You've got the film in the can, which, labeled at 214 minutes. You have to believe that means that they have taken all that footage, they've converted it to digital, they've edited it into a cut that he considers his director's cut, and it progressed far enough along that they felt it was ready to be printed back onto film and put in cans. So does that mean it's 100% complete? Maybe. Does it mean that it's some near finished film, which would sort of corroborate what people like Mark Hughes has been saying, and I suspect he's getting his information from Jay Oliva. We did see someone online that claimed to be a VFX artist saying that they print these things in order to send them off to get rated, basically, and that very minimal VFX work can still continue after that initial print has been made, but that it's essentially done. As I say, that would fit with what we're hearing from multiple sources that are closer to the situation. So I tend to believe that it's at least in that state, and as Mark Hughes said in one of his tweets, it's already in a state that's suitable for home release, and if they wanted to polish it up to full theatrical standard, the cost and effort would be minimal. So this just sort of backs that up, and I think that's a huge piece of evidence. So that's something that we can hold up and say, here it is. This, you can deny it all you want, but here it is. And then just today we had Scott Mendelson of Forbes come out and say, in spite of Zach's post, say, I still believe that's just an assembly cut. One of these ridiculous narratives after he's literally looked at a picture of a film in a can labeled director's cut with a 214-minute runtime. He's still calling it an assembly cut, to which Zach made one of his twice a year appearances on Twitter to say, hey, Scott, my assembly cut was 5 hours long. So that's pretty awesome in itself. And hey, I'd love to see the 5 hours of footage, but it just further cements the evidence that this is not an assembly cut. This is a near finished, at minimum, director's cut at 3 hours and 34 minutes. And, that 5 hour assembly cut gives a little bit of context as to how you can get to a 3 hour and 34 minute final director's cut. As I say, big week of Zach sort of losing his cool and trying to put false narratives to rest, and it's great because it gives us, again, more legitimacy and more credibility.
All right, Chris, what do you think of the saga continues on Release the Snyder Cut?
That was, Paul, that was really passionate, and I appreciate that. And that was a good breakdown of everything. You're talking to a guy. I've said this multiple times. If this thing does not get released, fine. I shrug my shoulders. It doesn't get released. If it gets released, I'll watch it. And if it's on Blu-ray, I'll buy it. But if not, it doesn't mean as much to me. And I appreciate where you guys are coming from, but I hope you also appreciate for me. It's just like, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
How this gets solved? Release the effing cut. Just release it. I'm sick of it. Release it now at this point. This arguing back and forth, I see this happening. I muted it for a while. I was like, I'm done. Muted the Snyder Cut because I just don't want to deal with it. Because many of my mutuals are Snyder Cut supporters, and many of them are haters. And I had to see both sides going after one another. And I was like, I don't care anymore. I want to see it. That I do want to see it. But if I don't get a chance to see it, okay, I will live and move on. You solve this issue by releasing the cut. And letting Zach show the world what he wanted to show the world. It doesn't change what the DC is going to do moving forward. Maybe he'll be able to finish his story. There might be some negotiations going on there, but they're still going to do Aquaman. The new Batman series is coming out. They're still doing this DC dark thing. That stuff is still going to happen. Aquaman 2 is still going to happen. Release the cut. Or come out and say we're not going to do it, and then deal with the ramifications, and the Snyder Cut movement can destroy you when you say you're not going to do it. It's just gotten to that point. I hope you guys know that I'm not yelling at you. I hope you know.
I understand. Trust me.
It's just so frustrating at this point. And to watch this stuff, and you solve the problem by saying, boom, it's dropping on HBO Max. Boom, we're releasing it in theaters for a limited run. Boom, we're giving it to everybody on Bluetooth, or we're never going to do it. And then you can, now you guys can go to the next step. So that's number one. I would like to see it. I want to say that right up. It just, come on, as a comic book fan, how could you not want to? Of course I want to see it. So the other side of it, I want to preface it with Henry Cavill by saying I agree with everybody in the Snyder Cut movement that he's disingenuous, that it's wrong for him not to come out and support it. I believe that's a mistake on his part. The devil's advocate in me is saying, do whatever you got to do, Henry. Do what you got to do. He's under no obligation to support Zack if he doesn't want to. He does not have to agree with Zack's vision if he doesn't want to. Now, again, I want to repeat, I do not agree with him. I do not believe what he did was right. However, devil's advocate, man, he's playing the politics. He's being a businessman. He's looking for his own future. Maybe he wants to be Superman in the future. Maybe he wants to make a Man of Steel Part 2 that goes directly after Man of Steel and ignores Batman versus Superman, which I don't know if you should necessarily do, but maybe that's something that he wants to do. Again, I'm not saying what he's doing is right. I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate, I can understand where the guy is coming from. And the hate that he's getting online, I think, is well deserved. And that, hey, man, you make your bed, you got to sleep in it, right? I don't think it hurts him to come out and say, you know what? I still want to be Superman. I still want to do ABC, but you know what? Come on, guys, let's all hold hands and say, release the Snyder Cut. How does that hurt? How does that hurt? So I still think he should have done it. But I kind of, again, repeating what I said, devil's advocate, he can do whatever he wants. It doesn't hurt me. I mean, I don't care. Henry Cavill's a weird dude, man. He's in his 30s, and he was hooking up with an 18-year-old, and all. He's just a weird guy. He's a very self-centered guy that's only looking out for himself. He's always been like that. I like him as an actor, but as a person, I question him. So I'm just going to end it and I'm going to toss it back to Lupe by saying, I want to just repeat one more time. You solve this issue by releasing the cut. You'll make me happy by releasing the cut. And I'm an MCU fan. I just don't understand at this point the total dead silence that's coming from Warner Brothers. I'll throw it back to you, Lupe.
All right. Well, I mean, you guys really went in, and there's so much to talk, about this. We can go on for a long time. I'm going to do my best to keep it very brief, very concise, and say the important things. One, let's start with Henry Cavill. There is nothing more to add to what you guys said. You kept it real. Cavill, huge disappointment, very selfish person, and I will leave it this way. What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? At the end of the day, he's making business decisions, thinking about his career, thinking about bank, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, the most important thing in life is the relationships you build with people based on trust, on loyalty, on honor. These are things that will never fade away with how popular you are, how much money you have in the bank account. Like, when things aren't going your way in terms of those things, at the end of the day, the people that are going to be there for you are your friends, the people that you have formed bonds of loyalty and honor with, the people that you've been in the trenches with in the down times. Those are the people that will be there for you. And I think he's making a huge, huge, huge mistake by being disloyal to Zack Snyder and being disloyal to the fans, because don't get it twisted. A lot of fans feel jilted and betrayed by Henry Cavill, because when Henry Cavill was taking shit from the haters, it was fans who were in the trenches fighting on his behalf. Y'all can say whatever you want about BVS. The narrative can be spun however it wants to be spun. But at the end of the day, that's a movie that did not bomb. You can say it was divisive, but it's a movie that made close to $1 billion. It's a movie that has a dedicated fan base. Say anything about BVS on Twitter right now. I dare you. I dare you. And your mentions are going to be flooded either way, good or bad, because there are a lot of passionate fans. Fans who will tell you that Henry Cavill is my Superman. The DCEU is my DC. Zack Snyder's vision is my vision. These are people who were in his corner, taking punches, taking licks, taking hits from haters for years. People who were made to feel terrible, made to feel bad, who were bullied for what they liked. And so to see Henry Cavill take the side of the haters because of populism, because he wants a fresh Rotten Tomato, because he wants to be in the good graces of bloggers and entertainment journalists, because he wants to be in a quote-unquote billion-dollar franchise, because he wants the fame, the accolades, the money that comes with, being in these popular Marvel type of movies. It's some of the most disappointing stuff that I've seen in fandom. How an actor can turn on his fans and try to court the opposition blatantly is just completely disappointing. It's gross to me. I cannot express myself even well enough to really explain how I feel about it. But on the other hand, I am intellectually mature. I am an adult. So I can separate Henry Cavill, the person, the disappointing person, from Henry Cavill, the actor. I still enjoy movies that he's in. If they're good, I'll support them. If they're bad, I won't support them. But as I said, in the long run, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? And let's leave it at that. Now let's go on to Zack Snyder's picture of the Goldberg reels. I love the picture. I just love the angle that it was taken. I love the color grading. I love the fact that I actually get to see sort of it's almost like I can feel the Snyder's cut, if you know what I mean. I can almost touch it. And that's really why I'm excited about that. I don't feel he had to do that. I don't feel he had to post it. I honestly, personally, don't really feel that it was necessary, because one thing I've noticed is that the haters are always going to hate. Before, like Zack Snyder said, he has his cut. He said his cut is finished. So are these people saying he's a liar? That's basically what they're saying. If you're saying that Zack Snyder's cut doesn't exist and doesn't exist in a fashion that he's ready to put it out, and you're directly saying he's a liar. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Lupe, I think. So I'm just going to jump in for a second here. I didn't mention it when I was speaking there, but I don't know that this was actually meant directly for the haters. I think indirectly it serves to address the haters. I think this might have been meant directly for Henry Cavill. I mean, this came what?
Yeah, I was about to say that too.
Yeah,
I was about to say it. There is no coincidence that Zach posted this the day after Henry Cavill posted that. You know what I'm saying? Zach doesn't do things by mistake. It's very calculating guy. If you watch his movies, he's very detail oriented. He's always putting Easter eggs in things. This is a guy that thinks like layers deep. And this is definitely also a retort to what Henry Cavill did and the doubts that Henry Cavill cast on the Snyder Cut's existence and the state of its completion. But I'm happy that he posted it, just because it's a picture that I just like, and I'm going to see if I can get an untagged version of it. I have my sources. We'll see what we can do about that. But
just release the cut.
The haters are always going to hate. He posted it, and as Paul detailed, somebody was already talking about how, this is an assembly cut. He posted something, and on it was written director's cut, and someone is saying it's assembly cut. Like, what? A blogger, an actual blogger who quote unquote has covered entertainment, for decades, saw a director's cut and said it's an assembly cut. And that's what is always going to happen. So at this point, I completely ignore the haters. I don't do anything for them. I only focus on sort of positive, proactive movements. I try not to be defensive in my interactions with people. If you see me engaging with a hater on Twitter or anywhere, I'm probably making fun of them and just having a good time. But I like that he posted that just for to archive that picture and just almost have that tangible feel and feel very close to the actual physical copy of the Justice League director's cut. I know I was very impassioned and I was a little bit on fire. I hope you guys excuse me.
I enjoyed it, Lupe. You make me feel better about my comments on Cavill. Your passion took it to another level.
I didn't plan on doing that, I swear. But Henry Cavill talked about where he wanted to take Superman. And I just want to hear from you guys. Where do you think that the character is now in the popular consciousness, in the cinematic world? Where would you like to see the character go? Would you like to see Henry Cavill play the role? Must there be a Superman? Chris, would you start us off on this discussion?
I do think there should be a Superman. If it's the DCU, look, if you're an old school comic reader like I am, Superman has been such a huge part of that universe for a long time. Mm-hmm. And there's something to be said about the Holy Trinity, with Wonder Woman and Batman and everything. Their stories are fantastic. And you wrote in the notes to, making an emphasis in quote unquote on how the character is portrayed in comic books. Well, everybody gatekeeps with that. I see that with the X-Men movies, with the DCU, with the MCU. Everybody gatekeeps with that. And that's a horrible thing because different takes and different interpretations of the characters have existed in the comic books for a long time. So what is bringing quote unquote Superman back to the comics, and what is that making him happy? Not necessarily, because I think we've all read Superman stories where he's been a loner. We've all read Superman stories where he's more interesting as Clark Kent, trying to figure out his place in our world. I'll give you this. Here's a take. I don't know if it's hot or not. Man of Steel, I adore that movie. I think it's a better movie than Batman versus Superman. I have always felt even the Ultimate Edition is a step backwards from Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel is a better, more complete movie. I walked out of that theater loving that particular version of Superman, and I didn't necessarily like the way he was handled in BVS. I would like to see more of that too. I liked that version. I didn't necessarily like Superman Returns. So I'll throw that out there. But I think there are multiple versions of Superman that can exist. And in our particular society right now, with fear, kind of taking over, we're afraid of things. We're afraid of losing our civil liberties and all this other stuff. We're giving things up to the government and stuff. Save me, rescue me, all that stuff. I think Superman is absolutely still relevant to this day. So I think, yes, if you wanted to, you could still make a happy-go-lucky Superman, and you could probably be very successful. But that's not necessarily the version that I think I personally would want to see. I liked what they started. And if you read what Zack wanted to do, apparently he was going to start with that version of Man of Steel. And he was eventually going to get much closer to a more quote unquote traditional version of Superman with still his take on it. So I even though I disagree with some of the things that Zack did in the DCU, I've always liked that version of Superman. And I do believe that multiple versions can exist and we can have another version in another 10 years. I'll leave it at that. If Henry's the guy to play it, that's fine. I like Henry in the role, but if they recast it, I got no problem with that either.
All right. Paul, get up on your soapbox. What do you think?
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna try and be objective about this. There's the objective side that says, yeah, I'd like to see more Superman movies. I think there's stories to be told there. I'm a Batman guy first. Zack's take on Superman is what made me really like Superman. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I had the Superman and Brainiac and Darkseid figures when I was a kid, part of my, collection with the other superheroes. I wasn't like I didn't like Superman. But I'm not a fan of the do-gooder blue Boy Scout, red Speedo wearing, American flag waving, always knows the right thing to do, father figure Superman. No, it's boring. It sucks. I liked Zack's take on Superman, and I thought Henry Cavill was perfect in that role. So for me, I want to see the Snyder Cut. That's the Superman I want more of. If we get if they can spin off another Man of Steel, direct solo sequel off of that, and make it work, great. But if we don't get the Snyder Cut, to just wedge in another Man of Steel solo movie, potentially retconning BVS and JL, no thanks. Just reboot the character. Let Henry make the bed he slept in. Reboot it. Give me someone new. All
right.
Yeah.
Well, let me jump in here. I am the resident Superman fan. Always been a massive Superman fan. Superman is my character. And I'm going to echo some of Christian's sentiments. Henry Cavill said he wanted to, portray the character how the character is portrayed in comic books. And that's a bunch of baloney. That's populism talking. That's listening to the haters and echoing their sentiments. Because anyone who really knows their comic books, as Christian said, knows that there's multiple interpretations in comics. The people who think that there aren't multiple interpretations in comics are people who don't read comics, who just know Superman from popular TV shows or from popular movies. For example, if all you really know about Superman, if you haven't been reading Superman for years, if all you really know about him is Christopher Reeve's Superman, you'll think he's just a happy-go-lucky guy who has that 70s camp to him, who's a bumbling, reporter, and is always smiling and is cheesy. And obviously, Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Lois and Clark, also cemented that in the popular consciousness. And whenever you see t-shirts and merchandise, because they're trying to sell it, it's always, Superman in that, pose. But if you have read the comics over the years, there have been that interpretation, but there have been multiple other ones. I'm looking at Superman comics on my bookshelf right now, and I'm looking at stuff like Kingdom Come, which is really dark, which is it's basically Revelations, the book of Revelations, like the apocalypse, that kind of dark. Also, there's the nostalgia of Superman for All Seasons. I'm looking at Red Sun. I'm looking at Birthright. I'm looking at All-Star. So there's so many different ways to interpret Superman. And I'm not opposed to any of those ways, as long as it's done in the natural flow of things. As long as it's not reactionary, as long as it's not pandering, I'm okay. I do personally feel that it's important for Superman to be updated for a modern audience. I feel that there's no need to make him a quote-unquote man out of time. Make him a 70s campy figure in 2019. I mean, the 70s were 50 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. Like, it's forced. The reason why Captain America works as a man out of time is because he was actually frozen in time.
Literally. Yeah, you're right, and that's completely
he was literally frozen.
You're absolutely right.
When people make that comparison, it doesn't make any sense to me, because they're ignoring the facts that this is a guy who was raised with the greatest generation that was frozen and transported to the modern day. So obviously he's still gonna act in a very retro way and speak and have these funny things about language and this sort of old world charm. But Superman is different. Superman is the man of tomorrow. He's supposed to be the best that human beings can be in the future. He's supposed to actually be a futuristic character. Like when human beings evolve to their final form, they're supposed to be like Superman. That's the idea of Superman at his core. He's not the man of yesterday. So the path that Zack Snyder took him on, I feel, was absolutely brilliant. I know that, Christian, you don't love Batman v Superman. I absolutely adore Batman v Superman.
But I don't hate it. I think that's important to note. I don't hate that movie.
I understand how some people just don't understand what Zack Snyder was doing. What Zack Snyder was doing with Batman v Superman was he was saying, in a world that is so dark and in a world that's so full of hate and in a world that can turn on the best of people with the best of intentions and things not go their way, someone can still be good. Someone can still be good despite trials and tribulations. They can still, at the end of the day, give the best of themselves and give and sacrifice themselves. And in order to show that, he had to make the entire world like very dark, with Batman being the worst Batman version of himself, with Lex Luthor being the best version of himself, which is an inverse, with, Doomsday, a corruption from Krypton, and the whole world just being like it is. How divisive and terrible our world is right now with all our concerns. But then there is this figure who's trying despite all of it, and in the end just determines that no matter what happens, I'm just going to try and do my best. And I feel very upset that Henry Cavill, he's just going with populism. I don't want to go as far as to say he doesn't understand the character, and that's a very, very harsh claim to make. But I feel like he's just trying to go with the take that's going to appease the most number of people. It's going to be the most popular. That's going to be loved by bloggers, and it's going to get him fresh tomatoes. And I hope he likes the fruit salad. Anyway,
he's sucking the super out of Superman. Is the problem?
He really is. But let's now we've in terms of who to play the role. Honestly, I don't care if Henry Cavill plays the role in the future. I feel like he is. I like him a lot as Superman, but I really wouldn't like to see him make a pivot to the type of Superman that was in Justice League. And make no mistake about it, something we haven't mentioned is that Henry Cavill is a culprit in what we saw in Justice League. All this stuff that he's saying is evidence of things that he has said in the past. He sided with Joss Whedon. He sided with Jeff Johns. He sided with the studio in the butchering of Zack Snyder's vision to rejig Justice League to this campy, weird, Super Friends, nonsensical hatchet job of a film. You saw this crazy flip from a Superman who was thoughtful, who had a lot of soul, who had a lot of gravitas to him, who was quite mature, to this campy, weird, absurd thing that was just transported from a 70s style camp movie to 2019. So I genuinely don't really want to see Henry Cavill play Superman again, to be sincere. As a matter of fact, I'll just say it because I feel like the Superman movie that he will do will not be a good one. But on the other hand, I feel like the Superman movie that WB is going to do next is not going to be a very good one. So it's whatever. But
I want some small part of me wants these haters to get everything they asked for. Just get the red trunks, the smiling, the camp, and see how much they love it. You know, just let it be the disaster that it would be, and then blow it all up. You know.
But you know what I think? At the end of the day, I think they may like it, which is perfectly fine. But it wouldn't be for me. I'm just me personally. Although I'm a Superman fan, I probably would never really hate anything that Superman. But for example, like Superman Returns, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just I never want to see it again. It's just there, and I feel like that's the way the character is headed. I will always cherish the arc. What Zack Snyder tried to do. He's a true Superman fan. You can tell. He tried to make Superman the greatest hero ever, tell the most impactful, cinematic, thoughtful stories. Really tried to. It was as if he was trying to make Superman movies, but with cinema in mind, the way Martin Scorsese thinks of it. And that's why Zack Snyder got a lot of hate for it. And a lot of people just didn't understand. Why would you make a Superman movie that feels like The Irishman? You know? And the reason why he did it is because he's such a big Superman fan that he feels Superman must have the best. Superman must have the most thoughtful, the best in cinema, the best, you know? And that's the way I feel about Superman. I love Superman that much. So we talked a lot about that. Let's move on to The Witcher, which is a perfect segue. What do you guys think about Henry Cavill as a leading man? And what do you think of The Witcher series? Are you guys going to watch The Witcher series? Are you looking forward to it? Are you looking forward to Henry Cavill's, career going forward? What do you guys think in light of all the things that we have discussed? Paul, start us off.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try and take a step back from my comments on Cavill as Superman and think about where I was with this series a month ago. And I was really excited about it. I mean, I've been trying to read that first Witcher book. I've liked the trailers. I loved Cavill as Superman. I think I've loved him in other movies too. I mean, I've never actually seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but I liked him in Immortals. I loved him obviously in Man of Steel and BVS. I think he's got a great look for the leading man. He's got a great look for this role. He's got a charisma to him on screen. I know some people will argue that. I know one of the complaints about him is that he's wooden. I personally have not seen that. I like him as an actor on screen. When he's got, I guess, what I would consider to be good material. So I was excited about this series. I think the first real step back away from that excitement really has been his comments about the Snyder Cut and his lack of support for Zack, and you try not to let that bleed into your perception of the actor or the character in the on-screen performance. But at the same time, you can't fully, at least I can't fully separate it. Whenever I see him now, that's what I think of, and I have to consciously make an effort to block it out and try and evaluate what it is I'm watching in isolation. And the minute you have to make a conscious effort to do that, your enjoyment of the product is already affected. And then on top of that, we watched, earlier we were talking about a little clip from Kimmel, and when you actually see a clip from the show compared and contrasted to the trailers that we've seen, the clip was underwhelming. At best, I was very concerned by how the clip looked. It looked pretty bad, to be honest, whereas I thought the trailers have looked pretty good. Now, it's just one clip. It's just 20 seconds of the show, but why was that the 20 seconds you put on Kimmel? Was that the best you had to offer? Because it sure wasn't real good. So now I got a little more concerned. My feelings on Cavill are clouding my impression of the show a little bit, and that clip was not strong. So I'm still going to watch it initially, but my enthusiasm has been dulled a little bit.
Christian, what do you think of Henry Cavill as the leading man going forward and The Witcher series?
Contrasting, Paul a little bit, his comments on the Snyder Cut, obviously for me, it doesn't bother me, for him moving forward as a leading man and as an actor, whatever he decides to say about that particular thing is he's going to go off. Henry's going to Henry, so he's going to do whatever he's got to do. And that's fine. I've liked him going back to the Tudors. I thought he was really good in that show. I thought he was better than, he's not wooden. Like Paul said, some people, they call him Wooden. They called him Wooden as Superman. I never saw that. I never really saw that. He was good in Man from U.N.C.L.E. I liked him in Mission Impossible. I thought he was good in that as well. Now, I haven't seen Night Hunter yet. I really do want to see that. I've heard good things about it. And I also enjoyed him in Immortal. So as a leading man, I like what he brings to the table. He's a good-looking guy, takes care of himself. He's got charisma. Now, I've never read the Witcher books, but I have played the games, and the games were great. So I've looked forward to this series, and the trailers have looked very good. So I'm still going to watch it. I've absolutely looked forward to the series. I definitely want to see it. This little 20-second clip was underwhelming, but it didn't break it for me either. Like, it's not like I just watched that and I'm like, okay, well, now the show's going to be crap. And that's the end of that. I agree with Paul. I don't know why that's the clip they decided to go with, but it didn't necessarily hurt it to me either. I was like, I don't even know what I just watched at this point. You know what I mean? So I'm still looking forward to it. I still want to see it. I still think if they follow the storyline, it's going to be engrossing, and I think he's going to be good in it. I'd like to see what he does moving forward. I really would. Henry's a strange guy. For me, I can separate his weird comments and the weird thing he does, like dating an 18-year-old, from him being an actor. If he goes off and says he supports Nazism or something and he's like a white supremacist, okay, well, then maybe we might have to have a conversation about me no longer supporting him. But, but for now, he's just a weird dude that I like as an actor, and that's kind of it. But as far as The Witcher is concerned, I'm still all in on this. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. For me, his comments didn't really affect how I see him as an actor. I've known about his sentiments towards Snyder Cut and his personality. Let's put that in quotation marks. I've known about that for years, and I've enjoyed his work. I really have. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a must watch. Obviously, Guy Ritchie, one of my all-time favorite directors, made that. So Cavill is someone who I think it depends on the material that he has. He's not a very good actor, but he has a presence and he has a look. He definitely has those two things. He was very bad in Night Hunter. Very bad.
Oh, you're scaring me.
Seemed like I haven't
seen it yet.
Yeah. Night Hunter he wasn't good in, but loved him in Man from U.N.C.L.E. Obviously loved him as Superman, Zack Snyder's Vision. Loved him in Mission Impossible Fallout. Adored his villain take. Loved him in Immortals as well. This Witcher coming up, I was very excited about it. I have a friend who's like always like in my ear about how it's going to be the greatest thing ever. He follows all the nitty gritty like rumors and behind the scenes stuff, and he knows everything. So he got me a little bit hyped on it. The trailers did look good, although I have complained about digital photography and how it doesn't look very cinematic. This little 22-minute clip that debuted on Jimmy Kimmel, not good. Not good at all. It was shockingly bad. It looked like 2000s, 90s network TV. That's what it looked like to me. Like, stuff like that we saw, like Xena, the warrior princess, and that sort of thing. That's what it looked like to me. It had like Dutch angles, where like the camera is like twisted at like a 60-degree angle or 45-degree angle and zooming in on the face, and you're like, is this like a high school film project? Like, what is going on? And then the fighting is over choreographed. It's almost like they're dancing and they're not hitting each other. And the dialogue, even in that 22 minutes, just seemed ham-fisted, and it seemed really bad to me, and that is very, very upsetting, because I do want Netflix to succeed at making good fantasy content, and this looks like it's going to be beloved by fans of The Witcher. It's going to be beloved by fans of Henry Cavill, stans. I'm not sure how its mass appeal is going to do. It had better have a really good story, because the other technical elements that I've seen just don't look good at all. I'm curious to see how his career goes forward. I think he's a very boring person in interviews. He's very wooden, but as an actor, he's passable. He has a good look and a persona. So when The Witcher comes out, we'll be sure to review it on this channel, and we'll have more discussions about it then. So let's go on to our next section, which is also about Netflix. This is a new section we have where we talk about a myriad of content that's coming to streaming. So what we're going to start doing is that if there's a month where we find that there are exciting things coming to a streaming platform, we'll do a little preview for you guys. And December is going to be a very hot winter. Netflix is dropping a bunch of stuff, and the most interesting stuff that I saw on their lineup, they just released The Irishman. That was on the tail end of November. But their Marriage Story, starring Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver, is coming out on the 6th. It's a huge awards contender. Six Underground, $150 million action flick starring Ryan Reynolds and directed by Michael Bay, is coming to Netflix. The Witcher, starring Henry Cavill, which is Netflix's answer to Game of Thrones, I guess. Lost in Space Season 2 is coming on December 24th. It was a very successful sci-fi series for them. That's why I got a Season 2. And then You, which I call a trashy, like, romance show, is coming on the 26th. So you guys, what stands out to you that's coming out in December on Netflix? Christian, let's start with you. Are you subscribed to Netflix, and what piques your interest?
Yes, I'm subscribed to Netflix. As my wife and I move closer to completely cutting the cable, there's a couple of streaming services that we are going to keep. Netflix is one of them. I've liked a lot of their original stuff. Even their little mini documentaries that they have out recently are very good about the food you eat and where it comes from and stuff like that. They've done a really good job with that stuff. So looking at that list that you sent over and the stuff that you've talked about, hey man, number one, Bayhem. Give me Six Underground. Yep. I am absolutely looking forward to that. Yep. I am so excited for that. That Marriage Story definitely piqued my interest. I've been looking at that now for a couple of months, and my wife is into it, so apparently I can't watch it until she's ready to watch it. So it doesn't matter even when it's released. I got to wait until she wants to watch it with me. We just talked about The Witcher. You guys know I'm into that. The other one that was on that list that was completely new to me, and I didn't even know anything about it, I was just introduced to it, is the show that's called Triad Princess. That's coming in. It's a Chinese language series, and the little blurb said, after growing up in the shadow of her mafia-affiliated father, Angie defies his wishes and takes a gig as an undercover bodyguard for a famous actress. I'm into foreign films and things like that because it just expands my appreciation and my knowledge. And this looks really cool. So this is something new that I never would have been into before. And now I'm like, oh, pretty cool. So those for me are the 4 things that I like that's coming out in December.
All right, cool. Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I think the coming off our conversation about The Witcher, I think it's still the thing I'm probably most looking forward to personally on Netflix. Although Six Underground surprised me with the trailers. I'm not a huge Michael Bay fan. Well, I am and I'm not. Let's say I love certain aspects of his filmmaking, but sometimes I find that the dialogue and humor in his movies is almost unwatchable.
Juvenile,
yeah, like it makes his movies almost unwatchable, and he is one of those guys who I watch his trailers and I think, oh my god, this is it, it's going to be great, and every single time it's like Charlie Brown where she pulls the football away right before he kicks it. That last Transformers movie, I watched that preview and I thought to myself, or the trailer, and I thought, this is going to be good, I'm really going to like this one. And I couldn't make it 15 minutes into that movie. I had to turn it off, and I've never gone back. So I'm cautiously optimistic about Six Underground. There's the visuals have really caught my interest, especially the touring through Florence. I'm almost more interested in just looking at Florence than I am in the actual plot, right? But I'm interested in that one. I'm interested in The Witcher. And Lost in Space was a series that I actually watched with my wife and daughter, and we eagerly, looked forward to watching those episodes for season 1. And I'm looking forward to that one coming out as well. And then just skimming through, some of the other stuff that's coming out. There's something on Netflix called V-Wars, which I guess is a vampire series, a 10-episode vampire series, which is not necessarily my thing, but it looks interesting enough that I'd give it a chance, and hope it's not cheesy. And maybe there's it's the kind of thing where I'll give it an episode at least, see if I like it, and maybe it's got a little bit of potential. But that's what stands out to me.
All right. Well, for me, the first thing is I'm just in awe at the quality and quantity that Netflix is putting out. They are just going hard in the paint, unrelenting with, the amount of stuff that they're putting out. No other streaming platform can match them pretty much on almost any level. And I hope that their economic model doesn't fall apart, because this stuff is ridiculously expensive. And I hope that, in the long run, they get the returns that they deserve, because I do like the fact that we're getting this much content. It's just that in the back of my mind, I just feel like this gravy train is going to end someday, But for me, Marriage Story, I'm so looking forward to that. I know that movie is going to absolutely destroy my emotional insights. There's a movie called Kramer versus Kramer. It's from the 70s.
Yes, sir.
Dustin Hoffman. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It was a film that my dad not made me watch as a child, but I always tell you guys about the movies I watched when I was a kid. So when I was a kid and everybody else was watching like The Little Mermaid and like watching like Disney cartoons, my dad was making me watch Kramer versus Kramer. It's a movie about, it was one of the first movies that really delved into divorce, as divorce was beginning to rise and beginning to be like a huge thing. And it's about the has to do with like the child and the trauma that the child goes through, being ripped apart from both sides, and a marriage that of two people who love themselves and trying but can't work. So it seems like this is reverberations of it. So this is going to hit me both of the nostalgia feels and in the sort of love and heartbreak feels, and I really can't wait to see it. It comes out basically today. At the time of this recording, on my side of the world, it's today, and I can't wait to get home, watch it, and just cry.
It'll be very cathartic. Yes, it will.
Yes, it will be.
Sounds like a great time. Yeah.
Absolutely it does. Then Six Underground. I really want to see this one because I want to see how Netflix does with this blockbuster. They did Bright, and that one had sort of mixed results in terms of, it was a very good production, but the fact that we don't have a Bright 2 right now tells you pretty much what you need to know about its performance. To be sincere, let's just, no matter how much you like it, no matter how much root for the movie, that's just the truth, cut and dry. So I really want to see how a director like Michael Bay is going to do within the confines of Netflix. This is not an indie director like Alfonso Cuarón or Kerry Joji Fukunaga or Martin Scorsese. This is a guy who's doing a theme park ride movie on Blockbuster, on Netflix's platform. Ironically, I said Blockbuster. And it's interesting because Zack Snyder is basically doing the same thing with Army of the Dead that's coming out in 2020. That's my most anticipated movie going forward. So how this movie performs, how it's marketed, how it's delivered, how it's presented are going to be huge indicators, huge markers for what to expect from, stuff like Army of the Dead. And it will show us what to expect from, sort of like these auteur blockbuster directors who may be having not the best time making films in theaters, and how that can transfer to Netflix. So if this doesn't do well, if it's not up to snuff, if it's not what we expect from a Michael Bay production, then that can be doom and gloom for directors sort of taking this path. I'd say those are my two, and then The Witcher. I'm still very excited for The Witcher. I'm hoping that the clip that I saw isn't indicative of the true quality of the entire production. It's the series that I'm looking forward to on Netflix for winter of 2020. So those three. If you're listening to this, please drop us a comment either on Twitter or in the comment section wherever you're listening to this podcast, and let us know, what are you looking forward to seeing on Netflix in December? Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything you agree with that we've said, or is there anything that you disagree with that we said? All right, so after talking about Netflix, let's talk about Amazon Prime. They also have some content coming up. They don't have as much as Netflix, but they have some really good stuff. So some of the highlights that I picked out: on the 6th of December, they're having Marvelous Miss Maisel season 3. That's been a huge success for them, season 1 and season 2. The Expanse, it's finally debuting on Amazon. It's a series that was picked up from FX. And then that will be available on the 20th. And then The Aeronauts, it's a movie that was in theaters, and it's an Amazon original. And it stars, I'm forgetting the name of the actor that it stars. The guy that did The Dutch Girl? Who's The Dutch Girl? I'm forgetting his name right now, but we'll have a picture up there and you guys will be able to see. So, you guys, what do you think of the Amazon Prime originals coming in December 2019? What stands out to you? What are you looking forward to seeing? If you're going to see any of them, are you subscribed to Amazon Prime?
Yeah, I am subscribed to Amazon Prime, and it had started originally because of the 2-day shipping and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, they grew it with their streaming library.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will be honest. Outside of Jack Ryan, I have not, and the boys, I have not really watched too much original Amazon content. I do know that stuff like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel has a wonderful. It has a good following. People have been
Mm-hmm.
talking about it on Twitter. I've watched it on, on social media, people talking about them. So I'm going to just say that there's nothing in the original content right now that really excites me. I think I need to do a little bit more research and check some more of them out. So just at first glance, I look at it, I'm like, I'm okay. I mean, whatever's included in my subscription is fine. What's interesting is actually the legacy stuff that they have coming. I was interested in some of the stuff that was there, like Almost Famous. Is going to be there, and there's a couple of other. I know Night Hunter is finally going to be there a little while. The Aviator, which is a fantastic movie. I really love the Aviator. Sorry, I should learn how to speak. Bumblebee is going to be on there. There's going to be a couple of other things. So I actually like some of the legacy movies that I'm going to be able to stream. I don't have to rent them or anything like that. It's something else that you can add to the library when you want to have a movie night with the family. So I do like that. I would like to do a little bit more research though, so I can. See, I know the quality of their stuff has been good. I just personally have not watched a bunch of their original stuff.
Yeah. Just to interject, Amazon Prime's quality is actually better than Netflix on the whole. They don't put out as much stuff, but in terms of the quality of their content, it's actually better than Netflix, to be very
Mhm.
sincere.
The Boys was great. The Boys quality was fantastic.
Yeah, and
It's great.
that's pretty indicative of a lot of the stuff that they do. Their stuff is really good. Don't sleep on Amazon Prime. Give their series a shot. So, Paul, what do you think? Does any of this stand out to you, or is it a pass?
No, I'm a Prime member as well. Now more recent to Prime Video. But the Aeronauts is interested in me. That's something I've been looking forward to watching. Now, as for the other new stuff, I don't know. So The Expanse looks like the kind of thing I would enjoy, but I
Mhm.
haven't watched season 1, 2, and 3 yet. So before I watch season 4, I got some catching up to do.
Mhm.
The other stuff, they've got a library of other shows that I would sooner watch. I mean, I've watched The Boys, which I really enjoyed, but as I say, there's seasons of The Expanse I'd like to see. There are seasons of Mr. Robot I haven't watched. American Gods, that's just off the top of my head. The Man in the High Castle. I mean, a lot of stuff I want to check out
Mhm.
that for me is of more interest to me than any of the new stuff on Amazon on Prime right now. So I'm still doing some catch up.
Sure. All
But
right.
out of this list, The Aeronauts with Eddie Redmayne, I think is the name you're looking
Yes, Eddie
for.
Redmayne and Felicity Jones.
Yeah, and that one looks good to me, and that's something that I will check out.
Okay. Well, before I go into what interests me for December, let me just reel off some of the stellar stuff that they do, and these are series that I would consider to be prestige television. All right. So obviously, the marvelous Miss Maisel, which I haven't seen in completion, but I hear very good things about it, and I've seen some previews. Carnival Row is actually quite good. Homecoming, starring Julia Roberts. It's a quite a short, almost self-contained series. It's the best series ever on TV. Like it's tied with the best. So basically, if you think of series that they're 10 out of 10 and nothing surpasses them, stuff like Game of Thrones is up there, Mindhunter is up there, The Wire is up there. I shit you not, Homecoming is the best thing ever put on TV.
Mm.
Stop whatever you're doing and go watch it. Like the season is very short, it's self-contained, so you don't have to catch up on 10 seasons, and it's not the episodes are only about 30, 35, 40 minutes long, only 8 episodes. Trust me when I say you have to see it. They also have Hannah, which is like a series version of the film of the young trained assassin girl. If you remember that movie, The Man in the High Castle. This was one of the first series that came on and people started talking about peak TV. The Man in the High Castle. It just finished the series. Something I should review, as a matter of fact. So they have a bunch of good stuff. Jack Ryan is also very decent. It's like a modern, 24 with Jack Bauer. And obviously The Boys, a lot of people are really into The Boys. But for this December, what I'm really looking forward to is The Expanse, just The Expanse. Paul, you really need to watch season 1, 2, and 3. You talk about how you love sci-fi, how you want a sci-fi revival. This is it. Everything that you've asked for, everything you claim to champion, this is it. It's masterful, great storytelling, great world building, great futurism in terms of thinking, ahead and what could our lives be like when we're truly traveling beyond interplanetary travel, that sort of thing. It's so good. I really can't wait for season 4, and I'm so glad that Amazon picked it up because it was actually canceled because not enough people watched it on FX, which is reverberations of fan campaigns to pick up things that were discarded, aka release the Snyder cuts. Do it. So, sorry, moving on to our coming soon section, where we review trailers and movie posters. So, hot off the presses, we just got the Birds of Prey character posters. Birds of Prey is coming out in 2020. It's directed by Kathy Ann. She's credited, although we know that they brought in some reinforcements to do reshoots and plus the movie. It stars Margot Robbie, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Journey Smollett-Bell, Ewan McGregor, Rosie Perez, amongst others. So, guys, I want us to talk about each and every character poster. Paul, let's start with you. What do you think of the character posters for Birds of Prey?
Yeah, well, hard to say. You know, I'm not sure how to feel about this film. It's it's definitely a wait and see for me. So I can kind of see what they're going for. None of these costumes or character posters really wows me. I mean, there's a certain style they're obviously going for. I'm not sure I'm necessarily the target market for that style. I'm not. It's just not necessarily what I'm looking for out of a comic book movie. That's not to say I won't like this movie, but I'm just. I'm wait and see on this one. I'm lukewarm on it. I think it could be good, but it's it's got its style, and I'm just kind of indifferent on it.
Okay. All right, Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, I remember we talked about the trailer a couple of pods ago, and the trailer was a little divisive. We've heard about the reshoots and things that they're doing. They're messing around with it, and these posters go very much in line, I think, with what they were trying to get across in that first trailer. The posters are artistic. They're very like early century, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're very comic booky. If you're gonna, I don't want to go 5 minutes per poster, so I'll go 30 seconds or so for each one.
All right.
Harley Quinn, star of the show, right? Harley Quinn is the star of the show. For better or for worse, we said that when we talked about the trailer. This is her deal. It's her game. It's hers to lose, right? So, and there's little things you can tell what's going on behind her. They're trying to make her seem a little quirky. She's obviously got nothing about the Joker really, except for it looks like the roller skates are on wings and they're flying away. So she's breaking free, right? So now she's independent. So we're getting to see that. Okay, so that it's a cute poster, but all right. Black Canary. Moving on to her. I actually like hers. There's a sexiness to it. You and I talked about the outfit though for Black Canary. We were like, really? Really? What are they doing? And now she's got the baseball bat. It looks like she's got the little eyes in the corner. I think we see what they're going for. It's artistic, cool poster, right? Huntress. Can I just put my hand on my head because of her outfit? I mean, you guys can't see me, but I'm slapping my head right now. I'm just slapping my head. Look, and they're kind of slapping you in the face with the arrows, right? Now, cool looking poster, but am I the only one that noticed that she looks like she's almost the only one that's an actual photo? The rest of them look like they're a comic book. She looks like she's a picture as opposed to being, like in a comic book. So she's a little bit different. Cassandra Cain. All right. I think they're trying to reflect on what her character is supposed to be in this movie. She's got the diamonds coming out and everything like that. It's very comic booky, and you got kind of like that Suicide Squad-ish look in the background with the two X's. The face has the two X's with like a mouth underneath it. So again, very artistic. Renee Montoya. There's not much to say about her. Her poster probably should be cop. And it does scream cop. It's got the, you got the big Gotham City, shield down there and everything. And, you got the Old World's Fair behind it. And she's got the big brass knuckles. She looks like a badass. So she looks like a big time detective. So that's okay. So she's kind of screaming what she's supposed to be. Now, the last two, I'll kind of say them together. You got Roman Black Mask. And I'm really happy that they're putting Victor Zsasz in this because he's a character that I really have wanted to see in a movie for a long time. But I think both of those characters bring a certain gravitas to them, and these posters scream fun. They scream fun. And I'm going to end it by saying putting these all together as a package goes back to what we talked about when we originally talked about the trailer. The whole movie screams that funness and emancipation and independence, and we're getting rid of the Joker, and Harley Quinn's going to be the star, and we're going to slap you in the face with it over and over and over again. I don't necessarily think this movie will be bad. I'm still looking forward to it. I'm just not 100% sure what they're trying to tell us with the messaging here. I'm a little confused with the marketing, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if I'm wrong in that. I'm just saying, me personally, I'm a little confused with the marketing. I like the artwork. Artwork's cool. I appreciate the comic book throwback. there's just a lot of weird stuff going back and forth. I don't know how they want me to feel with this stuff.
Okay, for me, overall, I'm mixed negative. I like the fact that it's Quirkin's doing something different. This is not like a look or a marketing look that we can attribute to anything that we've seen before. I really like the way they do this sort of pop art slash the Renaissance art, you know, mashup, high and low concept. I really like that. But the worst thing about it is the character renditions. I just think DC is really like getting on my nerves these days. I don't know why they are deciding to go with the worst interpretations of their characters. One, I don't like the Harley Quinn, and I'm just gonna say I don't even understand what this outfit she's wearing is, or any outfit that I've seen her wearing in any of the behind the scenes stuff or posters. The only thing about this that screams Harley Quinn to me is the blue and pink hair. That's it. Nothing else is Harley Quinn. Honestly, she has the mullet, which is nice. I would prefer the mullet to be a larger size. I love that they have the hyena. She's supposed to have two hyenas. I guess it's nitpicking to say two. Right. Well, I do like the fact that she has a hyena. That's a dope touch. Like, that's something that I actually like really love. That's a good one, to be sincere. I'm gonna give it that. But I just feel like it just doesn't look like Harley Quinn, and just looks like really bad, like tacky fashion. That's me. Maybe I'm not the audience for it. Black Canary is the worst crime ever, because Black Canary has an iconic look. Everybody knows the fishnets, and everybody knows the black motorbike jacket. That's a dope look. Like, it's a look that has been there for decades. And they flip it to this, and you can't say, okay, because some people try to say that, you know, that look is kind of hypersexualized, which is like, superheroes are sexualized. That's part of being a superhero. Everything is heightened. Their sexuality, they're human beings that are peak human beings. They look like models. They're unrealistic. So to me, that has never been a problem. Whether it's men in tight stuff and showing, you know, all their muscles and their balls between their pants, or it's women in scantily clad items. That's never been an issue to me. If you're going to make that case, she's scantily clad here. She has cleavage. She's showing her stomach. So what was the point in changing something so iconic for, what is this? And people who don't know Black Canary, this is the first thing they're going to see of Black Canary. In terms of them changing her ethnicity, no problem with that. That's not an issue at all. All good. That's cool.
Yeah.
But it's the costume. What are they doing? Like, it's like someone that hates the comics decided to you know, just switch it. Huntress, I don't know what's going on here. I can see a purple chain across her chest. What is that? What is going on? Why? What?
She has arrows. She's got arrows, bro. That's it.
I swear DC is trying to. They're really trying me. They're really, guys, help me, help you.
Yeah, she's got arrows. That's it.
I mean, Huntress is she. I mean, the arrows, the little crossbow. That's a good touch, but the outfit, like, what's going on here? Like, there's a way you can make this more tactical and more cinematic. Go with, you know, with the Christopher Nolan templates, you know? It, like, these things are not hard to do. Cassandra Cain, this is like crime number 2. Anybody who knows Cassandra Cain from the comics sees this and is like, what is like, why? Cassandra Cain is such a badass character. She's like a child soldier. She's like a little assassin. Like, what is going on? My head hurts. Then we go on to Renee Montoya. She is a cop. I actually like this Renee Montoya. And Rosie Perez is an amazing actress. I think she's gonna do it well. She's like our fly girl from the hood. She's gonna do it justice. I really believe so.
That's
Victor,
definitely the best one.
yeah, definitely the best one. Victor Zaz. What is going? Why is he dressed like this? Like, I'm sure he has the scars on his body, but he's supposed to have his shirt off.
Yeah.
He is a psychopath. I can kind of see shades of it, but he shouldn't be this close. Because the thing about his scars is that he likes to show them off. It's part of his thing. He doesn't hide them. I don't know why they put it there. Maybe because they're trying to make it accessible to just kids and not scare people off. Who knows? Black Mask. Oh my God. Why? 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 Why?
I guess they're going free mask.
Why?
You know, when you look quickly at him, he looks kind of almost like the Riddler. Like you almost think those are question marks.
What is going on? Like, this is the thing.
Absolutely.
You don't need this to be Black Mask. Like, you don't need, like, you can actually just put a bad guy X. You do not need it to be Black Mask. Okay, rant over. These posters are, as a matter of fact, I didn't think that they were that bad. I thought they were bad, but mixed negative. No, I think that they're the worst thing ever. Okay.
Went from bad to worst thing ever. Okay.
From bad to worst thing ever. I talked myself into a frenzy, and I don't regret it. All right, so after talking about that, let's move on to the Mulan trailer. Directed by Nikki Caro. Stars Yufei Liu, Donnie Yen, amazing actor, Jet Li, legend, no pun intended. It's going to release on the 27th of March in 2020. Chris, what did you think of the Mulan trailer from Disney?
You know, this movie's got a serious cast, definitely. Yeah. And you know, I really liked the fact I have not necessarily been a big fan of the live action Disney movies. I know I have to give them another chance, but this one, there was not this Broadway show tune feel to it. This felt a lot more lush and rich and serious and beautiful. They finally introduced supernatural elements into it, which we figured was going to happen eventually, and we didn't have the little talking dragon and everything. That's okay. And it just seems like a more serious take, and her becoming the hero that she's supposed to be. I am much more intrigued by this movie than I was before. I know there's a lot of politics going on behind the scenes. There's no reason for us to get into that tonight. Just basing it on the trailer itself, I really liked what I saw, and I'm more intrigued by this than I was before. So I think I'm going to wind up going to see this one in the theaters. This just looks beautiful, really does.
Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I like this one. I do like the Disney live action stuff. I mean, I'm a resident Disney shill. Once you strip out the MCU and most of Disney Star Wars, I like what's left. And this one actually looks really good to me. Like Christian said, it's a more serious take. It's not the musical take. You don't have Mushu, but it looks good from the trailer. I actually tend to prefer the more serious stuff. I mean, you know, admittedly, I like a lot of the Disney stuff because it's stuff I enjoy going to see with my daughter and bringing my wife and the three of us. It's usually a place where we can find one of the few places where we can find content that we all enjoy. But this one, you know, a little bit different in that it's more serious, but I still think we're all going to enjoy it. It looks like a good story. I mean, the original was a good story as well. Just less musical, more serious, more emotional. And I think it looks great. So I'm looking forward to it, and I will definitely see this one in the theater.
Yeah, I echo your sentiments. The political aspect to it, I mean, good luck to Disney. It seems like they made this, and obviously because China has been very good to Disney.
Yes,
and so I think that, you know, with stuff like this and with stuff like Shang-Chi, I think they're trying to give back to the region, which is very good. I think it's something that they should do. If you've made so much money off a region, it's good to, you know, sort of give back, give them representation, celebrate their culture, their people, include them in your stories. And I think it's going to backfire on this one, which I kind of feel sad for him, because the actress, she said something political, and there's this thing going between the people of the country and the government, and she stuck her hand in there and got caught in between. And already, I mean, we already saw that, you know, Chinese citizens are already, sort of like revolting against it. So I don't know how well it's going to do in that region of the world. I don't know if they're going to, try to derail its reputation worldwide, period, because of what she said. What she said was actually a serious thing. So I mean, those waters are murky, and I do not envy the people at marketing and the publicists who have to deal with the whole thing. But the trailer itself, really good, really, really, really good, really strong in all facets, acting, technical stuff like cinematography, score, VFX, stunts. It looks like a East Asian, epic, like war epic. It looks really good. I'm glad that there's no singing in it. Sorry guys, I do not like musicals. I don't have a soul. So the blackness of my soul doesn't tolerate happy songs in movies. And it looks like it has a heartfelt message. We always talk about how the message of female empowerment sometimes can be a bit ham-fisted, can be very clumsy. They can, like ram it down your throat. But this one seems very, very natural, and it seems like Paul, if I had a daughter, this is the type of movie I would love to take her to go see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think you make a good point there that it does seem more natural, and it's not jarring and forced down your throat, and that is definitely one of the elements I like from this trailer as well. It feels organic. It doesn't feel forced, which is nice.
Yeah. So I'm in complete agreement with you guys. This was one of my favorite trailers of the week, and I was pleasantly surprised. Next up, let's go to the untold true story of Togo. So this one is directed by a guy called Erickson Core. This is his first big film debut, and he was a cinematographer for many, many, many years, for decades. He was cinematographer on the Point Break remake, on Invincible, on Daredevil, the one starring Ben Affleck, on the first Fast and Furious movie. And it stars William Dafoe. It's about William Dafoe and a dog, which is interesting because we recently talked about another dog.
Not a dog.
Yeah. So it's a dog-eat-dog world. This one will be releasing actually December 20, which is in about 2 weeks, and it's going to be releasing on Disney Plus. So, Chris, what did you think about this trailer?
Yeah, Disney, these bums, man, they always hit you right in the heart. They pull your string. They make you freaking cry, and you're like, you know what you're gonna get, and you still go into it, and you're like, yeah, shit, I still want to watch it. Mm-hmm. The trailer made me do a quick background, check, and found out that Togo, the dog, was actually the true star of that run to get the serum to rescue those people. Mm-hmm. And he didn't get the recognition that he deserved because I guess the other dog finished the final leg. The movie looks beautiful. Again, it hit me. Willem Dafoe, by the way, I really like. I really like Willem Dafoe as an actor. I'm happy that it's coming out on Disney Plus so I can watch it in my own time, because I don't know if I would go to a theater to see this one unless I had a child or I was taking my nieces and nephews. I don't think this is one that my wife and I would necessarily jump to the theater to go see, because it does look like a typical kind of family Disney movie, but I enjoy the true story aspect and the rescuing and everything. I probably will give this one a watch on Disney Plus. But again, I just want to repeat what I said. What the hell is it with that freaking company? They always got to pull at my heartstrings, and they always want to make me feel bad for some poor dog or something like that. Oh, guys, stop doing that. But I will say one thing: the dog looks a lot better in this movie than the one that we reviewed last week. The dog looks so much better. Go ahead, guys.
All right, Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, well, so I had no knowledge of what this was, and I had no expectations, and I think I was the one that threw this trailer out there for discussion, and then I took a quick look at it, maybe 20 minutes before we spoke, and I was shocked. This looked really good to me. It succeeded where Call of the Wild failed. The animation on the dog, I think some of it must have at least been animation. Look good. The story looks good. Like Christian said, I'm pretty sure my eyes weren't dry after watching the trailer. I mean, I have a 14-and-a-half-year-old dog, and the idea that this 12-year-old dog is gonna do this one last run, that's probably gonna.
Right?
Pardon me?
Right, I'm agreeing with you. I'm like, they're
Yeah.
making this. I didn't mean to cut you off, but Jesus,
No.
I was basically crying too. I gotta
Yeah, I
shut
was
up.
wiping my eyes there a little. It was, I'm going to watch this. And I think Christian makes a good point as well that I don't know that I would have rushed out to the theater to see this, but I'm looking forward to streaming this shortly after it's released on Disney Plus. Now, it's coming out on the 20th, which is the same day as The Witcher and also the official release date for Rise of Skywalker. So it's got a lot of competition, but it's something that I will probably watch, if not that opening weekend, certainly over the Christmas holidays. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I echo you guys' sentiments. I think it's very ironic that we reacted to the trailer for Call of the Wild. That's what it's called. Movie starring Harrison Ford and a dog. And my main issue with that one was that it was a beautiful movie all around. Seemed to have a good story, but there was no need to make the dog CGI. It just made no sense. And I actually think that there's no CGI for the dog in this one. It's just a dog that, they train these dogs and they're difficult to work with, but they're able to, capture the shots and edit reactions and, do all that type of stuff. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of green screen for a lot of the stuff that's in snow and on glaciers and that kind of thing. But as I said with that other trailer, you definitely don't need to CGI dogs. Like, it was just a weird call for them to make in Call of the Wild. And in this one, having a natural dog immerses you more into the story. Like, dogs are such a part of our lives as humans, and as a dog person, we understand their emotions. Like, they don't have to fully animate and express their faces and smile and raise their eyebrows, and for us to understand their body language. We've lived with them for so long and we know them so well that you do not need to make a weird Frankenstein CGI creation that just takes you out of the story. And this looks epic. And the fact that the director was a former cinematographer, really, you can see it. It's a beautifully shot film and it looks epic, and I can't wait to see it. And this and Mulan, these are the type of movies that I like when Disney makes. This used to be the stuff that they used to be really good at, making these, heartfelt family films, that had like a positive message. Obviously, they're not as edgy as other studios would make, but there was at least some originality to them. And I'm glad that they're putting this out. And we go from something original to something that's in a big franchise, still in Disney, the Black Widow trailer. The director is Kate Shortland. It stars Scarlett Johansson, that's Black Widow, Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, and David Harbour. And we released next summer, May 2020. And let's start off with our resident Marvel expert, Christian. Christian, what do you think of the Black Widow trailer?
Bring on Phase 4, baby. Bring it on. I want it. Now, it's an MCU movie, so let's call it what it is. It was all over my Twitter feed. If you're an MCU stan, this was the greatest thing ever, and you loved it, and it's like the best comic book movie ever. If you're a hater, you picked every little thing apart and said, I hate it. It's a theme park ride. So I think the truth was somewhere in between. It was a slick trailer. There were a couple little things you didn't need to throw in my face that she was in every Avengers movie. I know she was. I didn't need to see that she was in, Winter Soldier and all this other stuff. But I think, and there were only really two comedic moments really in the trailer. The rest of the trailer focused on Natasha. And that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to see. It had very Winter Soldier vibes, which for me is my favorite MCU movie. That and the first Infinity War are my two favorites. And I really like the fact that they focused on her. That little moment between her and her quote unquote sister, there was no talking really there or anything like that. They're just two trained assassins mimicking each other's movements. Okay, what do we need to do moving forward? There was some crap going back and forth online about the Taskmaster and his outfit. That's okay. Apparently, we're ripping Birds of Prey open for their outfits too. We'll have to see where that goes. So I will agree that it looks extremely generic. But some of the cinematography in there and some of the action sequences and the stunt sequences, like when she was diving and stuff, that looked really good. So it's a teaser, not really much to go on quite yet. I will say that for me, I probably was excited before this, so all this did was just make me even more excited. So obviously I'm all in for it. There were a couple little missteps in the trailer that I mentioned, but hey, man, 2 thumbs up. Bring on Phase 4. Let's do it.
All right, Paul, what do you think?
Well, I'm not a fan of the MCU, but I actually thought this was a pretty decent trailer. I mean, it's not super original, right? It's the Femme Nikita, Atomic Blonde kind of story with the Marvel skin on it. But it looks serious. I like Scarlett Johansson. I might be in. She doesn't seem to be the most popular actress in the world, but I like her.
Au contraire, mon frère. Yes, she is.
She is. Oh, well, a lot of people seem to like to rip on her for not being politically correct. She seems to be.
She's the most popular. The numbers say so. No matter what the narrative is on Twitter, she is the most popular actress in the world.
I suppose. I guess that's where we got to separate small segment of people on social media versus the larger audience, right? And so I do like her. I like her as an actress. As I say, it looked good to me, except for a few of the humorous scenes, not my thing, and it took me out of it. I think it was around the 1 minute 30-second mark. We got some guy called the Red Guardian come in there, and that kind of cheesed it out for me. But I thought Taskmaster looked okay. Seeing Nick Fury kind of took me out of it. I mean, anything that reminds me it's MCU kind of turns me off. But when I looked at it just as Scarlett Johansson in that role. And it was pretty serious, and I liked the music. And it was a fast-paced trailer. I thought overall it looked pretty good. Now knowing that it's an MCU movie, I'm not going to go see this in theaters. But it's the kind of thing that if when it's available to stream for free, I'll watch this, and maybe my daughter will want to watch it with me if it's not overly violent.
Okay. Well, I mean, for me, a mixed bag. I like the trailer. I like the energy. I said the musical choice is very good. I hope that that's actually one of the themes for the film, not just something that they use for the trailer. I thought it added a bit of darkness and an edge and a seriousness to it. So, the stakes are very high and you feel, like the world is going to end and, Black Widow has to save us or something. I really like the action set pieces. The only thing that I didn't like was when the villains started popping up. Some of the more fantastical stuff, I would have preferred it to be a bit more grounded. I felt like the Winter Soldier was quite grounded. It did have its fantastical elements, but a lot of it seemed like almost believable. I just felt like this was skirting on the edge of being almost Captain Marvel, with flying through the air, and David Harbour's character, what is he doing, man? Dude, come on, man. Everything was going so well until you just arrived and started talking with this crazy Russian accent and making jokes and, but overall, I think it's good. Personally, I really would have enjoyed it if Disney had tried to do something like, do you guys remember the spy movie that Jennifer Lawrence was in?
Red Sparrow.
Right. Yeah. If they had just, Red Sparrow do something like Logan just for once, just be like, we're doing something that's so grounded, so self-contained. But it looks like it's going to be another, fun Marvel movie. I enjoy most Marvel movies for what they are. I haven't had a problem with most of them. There are only maybe 2 or 3 that I'd say are actually bad movies. The only thing that this made me realize is I think I have superhero movie fatigue.
Yeah, it's something that I've heard a couple people talk about, and until these movies stop making the money that they make, the jury I think is still out on it. But I have absolutely heard people start to say that.
Like me personally,
yeah,
I'm sure it'll make money, but personally, because before I was so excited for every superhero movie that was coming out, I'm going to see it. Now, the last movie I was excited for was Joker, and apart from that, I'm not excited for anything. And this trailer
just the Snyder Cut, Lupe.
Yeah,
for me, that's it. That's all I care about anymore.
Yeah,
when it comes to CBMs,
that's different. Apart from them, I'm not even Venom 2, which I'm kind of excited about. I don't know. I think I have superhero movie fatigue. Wow. Okay.
I've had superhero fatigue since Guardians of the Galaxy, since the first one, and not to get too far off track, but I actually missed BVS in theaters because I was busy and listening to the reviews and I've been in superhero fatigue since that point. And
wow.
Seeing the Ultimate Edition of BVS was the only thing that pulled me out of that superhero fatigue long enough to get excited for Justice League, only to have that butchered. And now all I want is the Snyder cut, and I'm out.
Whoops.
I'm done.
Whoops. All right. Talking about superhero stuff, Amazon's The Boys. Well, you're not fatigued about this one. You're a big fan, Paul. We got a teaser for season 2 of The Boys. So, since you're the biggest fan, Paul, why don't you kick us off on this topic?
Yeah, so I guess The Boys for me felt different enough to break that fatigue, right? It's a little more comedic than The Watchmen, I guess, but it still had some of those same some of the same elements, right? So I really liked season 1, and while there was some humor in it, it wasn't necessarily humor first, right? It had some, I think, some satirical humor, but it had the elements of Watchmen in that it said, what would these heroes look like if they were real people? And most had been corrupted by the fame or forced into, awkward situations where their, their less admirable traits come out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved season 1, and I'm looking forward to season 2. I'm not sure how much we got out of this teaser. I mean, there's a lot of, fast-paced cuts between various scenes, lots of graphic explosion of body parts and blood spatter, and I'm not. It was going by so quick. I'm not sure exactly what I was looking at, and some of the scenes look like they were taken from season 1. So, doesn't really affect my excitement for season 2. I was looking forward to watching, and I'm still looking forward to it. This doesn't really move the needle in either direction for me.
All right, Christian, what about you?
Very similar to Paul with this one. I liked season 1, and I loved some of the commentary that it made on the current state of superhero movies and things like that, and the current state of how they could potentially be portrayed in our world, how we're so, addicted to celebrity and things like that. So I really liked season 1. It was funny, it was disgusting, it was crude, it was all the above. It just was good. And this teaser is exactly that. It teased me for season 2. I don't think it really changed my opinion one way or another. I want to see season 2. It showed me some more blood. It showed me some more guts. It showed me a little bit of pain with I forgot the Aquaman ripoff guy. I forgot his name. But it's just something's going on with him in there. Homelander looks like he's still a complete bastard. So more of the stuff that we love is going to be happening in season 2. So it definitely didn't change my excitement. If anything, it just proved to me that I'm right in enjoying this show, because I'm going to get more of the same. Definitely.
Well, I'm not on the complete opposite spectrum, but I'm not on the same page with you guys. I'm not the biggest fan of The Boys season 1. I did enjoy it, but I personally felt that it was a bit, I don't want to be very harsh. I've been on a streak, and not only am I going to be canceled and exiled, I think I'm going to be hunted down and just killed.
Just say it, Lupe. Get it out there. You're on a roll tonight.
Yeah, you're already exiled, man. You're already exiled. Don't worry about it.
I don't know. For me, The Boys wants to be like Watchmen, but I felt like it's a bit simplistic. That's just the way I felt.
Well, it's more simplistic than The Watchmen, but it's got a little more substance to it than most of the typical comic book fare we get.
I will give it that, but I feel like it definitely relies on the shock factor to stand out. Like, and you could even see it in this teaser, like a lot of like the blood splattering, guts, like just for shock value, just for, hey, this is what we do on this show. That's why we're different. We're cool, and that kind of turns me off because I just felt it's a bit juvenile, a bit childish. Although it did definitely nail home some of its satirical commentary on superhero culture, the commodification of it, the religious worship of fandom. Those elements definitely nailed it home. Probably even better than Watchmen did in some instances, but that wasn't the focus of Watchmen. But I haven't yet seen the Watchmen television series, but from what I'm hearing, from what I've perceived from people who've seen it, that's more my style. in terms of if you want to talk about a TV show that deconstructs superheroes and superhero mythology and superheroes in our world on a very sort of like intelligent level, that's my vibration. I felt like The Boys was kind of juvenile to me, but that's so harsh, and that's such a terrible thing to say. But I said it, and
you're not entirely wrong there. I mean, it is, there are some of what you're saying there is not wrong, but I really did like characters like Homelander. Like I just thought he was priceless, and there's a few other characters that I really enjoyed in that show as well. So, for what it is, I think it's highly entertaining, but it's not as serious or as mature a take as the Watchmen series on
no,
HBO is.
what I'll say is that I think it's overrated. That's it. That's where this has come from, because I don't think it's bad. I actually enjoyed it, but the way that there was this sort of like explosion of like, oh my goodness, this is like the greatest thing ever that's ever happened, and I'm like, nah, it's good, but not to the point where, I mean, the things people were saying about it. And obviously, there's also the element, I must admit, that a lot of people said the things about it that they should have said about Zack Snyder's Watchmen deconstruction of superheroes. And a lot of times, some people even use The Boys to sort of criticize them. I'm like, what are you guys? But I don't really want to get too deep into that, but I feel it was overrated. And the second season, I'm not, when it comes out, we'll see it. That's it. And as I said, this teaser really didn't have anything in it. It was just a bunch of snappy shots, and that was it. So, yeah, I'm going to be hated. It's fine.
Embrace it, man.
Right. All right. So let's end our episode today talking about 007 No Time to Die. And finally, after a bunch of production delays because of director change, production delays because Daniel Craig got injured, we finally got the trailer for the film. And the film comes out in about 3 months. Yeah. It comes out in 3 months. And we finally got our first trailer. No Time to Die is directed by Cary Joji Fukunaga. He is an auteur director, one of the most enigmatic, complex, difficult to work with, mercurial directors. He directed the first season of True Detective. Everybody knows that's legendary. He also directed Beasts of No Nation, which was Netflix's first prestige original movie, which should have gotten nominated for Academy Awards, but the Oscars were being not nice. I was about to say a dirty word, but let's say they were being not nice, because I want them to give me my award when my time comes. So I'm going to be nice.
Exile.
So obviously it stars Daniel Craig as James Bond. Rami Malek is the new villain. Lashana Lynch as the new 007, and a host of other returnees to the series. So it comes out on the 3rd of April, 2020, in 3 months. Paul, what did you think of the No Time to Die trailer?
All right. Well, as you guys know, I'm the least dedicated of the in terms of Bond fandom amongst us.
That's why I had you go first.
Yeah. So
isn't that nice?
Yeah. Let me. So you know, I'll give you the general audience perspective. Let's say. These are well-made films, right? All the Daniel Craig ones I've enjoyed, except for the last one, which I fell asleep twice and gave up.
Yeah.
But they're all well-made. Some grab your attention more than others. This is the kind of movie where if it turns out that I could get away, for an evening with my wife when it's out, then yeah, I'll go see this at the theater. If not, I'll watch it on home release. I'll probably enjoy it as long as I'm not so tired that I fall asleep. And once it's done, I won't be able to remember the difference between it and the 3 or 4 prior films. It's much like Mission Impossible to me. They're all well made. I enjoy them all. I couldn't tell you what happened in 5 versus 4 versus 6 versus 3 versus 2. They all just kind of blend together. Bond's a bit of the same for me. They're all fine. They're all enjoyable, but if the stars align, I'll see it in the theater. If not, I'll watch it on home release, and I'll probably enjoy it.
Okay, Christian, what do you think?
I'm a big James Bond fan, but my wife is a massive James Bond fan. So
Oh,
this
a good one.
is
You got a
this
good one.
is I have a keeper. I have a keeper. So this is probably an opening weekend for us because we've seen every single Bond movie since we've been together. Opening weekend,
Wow.
going back to Pierce Brosnan and everything. So we have. I've liked Daniel Craig's Bond movies with the exception of Spectre. I thought Spectre, like Paul said, was a bit of a step back, especially considering how great both Casino Royale were.
Skyfall.
Skyfall. My God, they were such good movies. So the only downside I like about this trailer, I'll talk about the good, but the only downside was there was a little bit of fan service here. You had the girls, you had the car with the gadgets and everything. You had Q doing his thing, and those were always the complaints with Daniel Craig's Bond, right? That he didn't have any of that stuff that the other Bonds had. But Daniel Craig was a different type of Bond that we needed for our time, I felt. And it worked. The Cold War is over, at least it's supposed to be over. The Soviet Union has fallen, things like that. This is a new kind of Bond for a new kind of spy world. And I always liked what they did with him. This trailer was fun. It was frenetic. It was fast paced. There was a lot of action to it. It showcased Bond and a little bit of a punch to the gut with his love interest from the previous movie, and also his the head of Spectre is back in as we can see from the previous movie, and that was, of course, there was a familial relation there. So I think that there's a lot that's going to be happening here. There's a lot of moving pieces. It showed us enough to get me excited about it. I'm a Bond fan already, so I'm going to be excited about it. So yeah, man, I'm all in. I think this looked really, really good, and I think they're going to end Daniel Craig's Bond on a high note. The one thing I'll say before I pass it to Lupe is I hope that this is the end of kind of like the serialized story Bond where each one leads into the next one. I kind of liked it better before where you could just jump into Die Another Day and you didn't necessarily have to watch all the James Bonds before it to see what was going on. Yeah.
I agree.
So pass it back to you, Lupe.
All right. Wow. I'm the biggest Bond fan here. And if anybody claims otherwise, we can fight to the death to see who is.
Take the crown, man. Take the crown.
The first thing I'll say is that it reminds the trailer, right? Reminds me of Mission Impossible Fallout in so many ways. Now, for someone, if you guys haven't been, big fans of the Mission Impossible series or haven't watched Fallout a lot, you wouldn't understand what that means. I've been watching Fallout probably like once every couple of months since it came out. It's an incredible movie. And if you read my thoughts on it, I said it's the best Bond movie since Skyfall. Mission Impossible Fallout. Yes, it's made like a Bond movie in terms of being stylish, going to, beautiful locations, having spy intrigue. It took the spy stuff to the next level. And this looks similar. First, in terms of the color grading, there's this sort of like sepia tone to it, the way the movie is shot. Also, in Fallout, there is like a past villain that's been captured from a previous film. In this one, there's a villain who's been captured from a previous film. There is a new spy who sort of like threatens sort of the status quo of the old spy. In this one, Lashana Lynch, the new 007, threatens him. There's like this sort of like dangerous love interest who fights in this like weird female way. Same thing in Fallout. Anyway, it's very, very similar, which is sort of an interesting topic that people need to talk about in terms of Bond is the original spy franchise. But then franchises like Mission Impossible come along. Kingsman come along. Obviously, Austin Powers is a spoof. But, all this sort of spy stuff, and they pay homage to the original, but they're doing new stuff and doing it so well that you begin to question where is Bond's place in the landscape? How will Bond separate itself from Mission Impossible, from Kingsman, which are all derivatives of Bond, but are done in such a good way that it threatens Bond's position as the original. But I think the trailer looked fantastic. apart from some clunky lines of dialogue. There were some lines of dialogue that make me think that they were probably reshot. They were very clunky. There was a part where he said something about how we all have our secrets, we just haven't gotten to yours. It just didn't seem like it was edited well. There was also a section where he said something about how men who play God, something about men who play God hasn't gone well for them. It just seemed very like unnatural dialogue that wasn't delivered with ease. Apart from that, Rami Malek as the villain, I don't like the fact that he has the facial scarification. It seems a little bit over the top, and the film is serious, and grounded throughout. And then that element seems a bit hokey and fantastical. It reminds me of some of the worst Bond villains where they had weird, quirky, cheesy, campy, fantastical quirks like that. Daniel Craig is Bond. Yeah, it's a throwback, but in Spectre, there were a lot of throwbacks and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So they have to be very, very careful with throwbacks. Daniel Craig as Bond. He's not my favorite Bond, but he's not a bad Bond. I actually think he's one of the worst Bonds. Yeah.
Oh, hot take.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people would be like, what do you mean by that? He's so cool. It's so amazing. But I think that he nails the assassin part of it, the cold-blooded killer that Bond must be. I actually believe that he can kill me. But I didn't believe that Pierce Brosnan could kill me. But then in terms of being smooth, suave, very classy, I don't think he pulls that off very well. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that can really talk a girl out of her panties. I don't think so. Also, the witty lines, like the clever sort of, Bond always had this sort of funny dialogue, but not campy. I'll never forget, Roger, Sean Connery, a girl betrays him and she falls and dies in the bathtub and she's electrocuted and he says, shocking, positive, shocking, stuff like that. Bond is not able to deliver those quirky lines very well. It seems quite stiff. The only thing he's really good at is being an action hero, obviously still cool under pressure. So that's a bit of a tangent, but I still think he's a good Bond. But for me, not the best. I'll be kind of happy to see him go. Oops, I did it again.
You were just on a roll tonight, man. Call you butter.
This episode is crazy. Okay, well, this was my favorite trailer of the week. I'm really excited to see Bond when it comes out. For me, Superman and Bond, those are my two things. Other stuff like He-Man and whatever else, those come third. But yeah, this has been a very long episode of ENN, but we had a lot to talk about. I'm glad. I feel like last week's episode was kind of lightweight, and we kind of came back with a vengeance on this one. Next week's episode, I think, is going to be beefy as well, as more news comes in. Also, there's been the CCXP in Brazil, and so we can wrap this episode up. Thank our audience for listening and for being patrons of our efforts and continuing this discussion with us. We're really appreciative. So signing out, Paul, where can the good people find you to discuss film with you?
Thanks, Lupe. Yeah, if anyone has anything they want to discuss from tonight, you can reach me on Twitter at _Paul_P.
And Christian, where can people find you?
If you want to blast me for being an MCU fan, you can find me on Twitter at chart6363. I'm the therapeutic guitarist.
I don't think anybody's been blasted for being an MCU fan. MCU is the most popular franchise. Like, we're not accepting any persecution complex. It belongs to DC fans and DC fans alone. But
own it.
I'm on Twitter at LiveLoveLupe. I hope you guys will join us again next week for another episode of ENN. And until then, stay exiled.